have those.
Oh, so it's actually named for the right thing. Okay, so I was just wondering. A friend of mine was like, "Oh, what are you going to do tonight?" I was like, "I guess we're going to go to dinner." He's like, "Are you going to go see the Grand Rapids?" I was like, "That doesn't really exist," because I'm brilliant that way. But yes, I'm Trina Nishimura. I'm really, really happy to be here and see all of your faces. So the panel is about voice acting and how people can get into voice acting, or how I got into voice acting. So the two questions that I'm asked the most are, by show of hands, who would like to know how I got into voice acting? Okie dokie. By show of hands, who would like to know how they can get into voice acting? Okie dokie. Let's start there. So I got into voice acting because I was an actor. So I started acting at the age of 9 with my local community theater. By the time I was 13 years old, I was touring professionally with the theater company. It was really awesome. Yeah, so I did that for a really long time, and then I decided I was going to go to college, and I was going to be a grown-up. I was going to be a lawyer and be very serious for the rest of my life. That didn't work out. But so I was in college, and I was studying to be a lawyer, as I spoke on before. And then a friend of mine worked at Funimation. He was a sound engineer, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to audition for this show?" And because he knew I used to act, and I was like, "No, Jimmy, I'm very serious now. I don't have time for that. I'm in college, and I'm very busy. I have a lot of jobs, and I'm broke, and I'm working. I'm very busy." And he was like, "It pays." I was like, "Where is it?" And so I went in, and I auditioned. I was cast, and I have been working steadily ever since, because I guess they like me. So that's nice. And I just kind of fell back in love with acting, and here I am now. How can you get into voice acting? I'm glad you asked. This is to all of the hands. I got into you can get into voice acting by being an actor. Saying you want to be a voice actor and just voice for dubs or things like that is like saying you want to be a baker, but all you want to make is blueberry pie, which is great. Blueberry pie is delicious. It's just blueberries aren't always in season, and they're not everyone's cup of tea. And I don't know about you, but I like to eat. And so actors actually have to pay bills and do all the other things that everybody does. So by saying I want to be an actor rather than I want to be a voice actor, that's probably the best way to go about doing things. Everyone look at the door.
Rock panel.
Like making people feel uncomfortable. Like, how would you feel if you were that guy? You like open the door and everyone's like, "Join us."
One of us.
So funny. Sorry, poor guy. So you should be an actor. How can you become an actor if you're not an actor already? I'm glad you asked. In order, everyone look at the door. On nuts. We're so close that time. I feel really good about this one. Somebody's going to come in and we're going to be like, so how can you be an actor? You can work with your local community theater, volunteer with various theater groups, even if you aren't cast, especially your first time. You can always volunteer to work at the box office, work behind the scenes, on the set, etc., etc. And that's a really great way to meet other like-minded people, which is my second point. Surround yourself with creative, like-minded people. You'd be surprised how frequently you'll get a gig or get recommended for an audition because you knew somebody or worked on a show or did something like years ago, and somebody was like, "Oh, I know somebody that can scream like bloody murder. Her name's Trina. She's really nice." Hopefully they say she's really nice. And so surround yourself with creative people, volunteer, educate yourself. So go through training, right? Acting like any kind of art is something that you have to work at, and it's certainly something that you should train on and to become better. Most everyone I know that's an actor or a working actor is still training. I still take acting classes and things like that. I think it's really important just to keep your craft honed and your skills pretty. And I'm not suggesting like, "Oh, Uncle Johnny's basement acting class, $700. Like, don't do that. That's crazy town. But you know, find accredited teachers in your area and take lessons or classes with them. Expose yourself to a lot of different art. all kinds of performance art. Even that weird guy that, you know, suspends himself with cables, paints himself blue, and smacks himself into a canvas. His name was Steven. We dated in college. It was really awesome. There's nothing like everybody knowing what your boyfriend looks like naked and blue. Am I right? Am I right? Just me? That's just me. So he was a nice guy, really into metal. Not my, not the metal, the whole like suspension, naked, blue thing. That wasn't really my dig. But it was something that, you know, you experience, and it helped me grow as an artist, and as an example of what I don't want to do. I mean, unless you guys want to see me suspended naked with blue paint on, no, just, okay, so see? So expose yourself to different kinds of art, be open-minded about it, try new things within your comfort zone. Live where the work is. That's really important. Not that many people are ever flown in for smaller productions, and in order to get your foot in the door, you got to do a lot of small productions. So live where the work is. If I don't know what kind of recording scene is here in Grand Rapids, but I'm sure it's awesome. As far as what I do dubs, right? So, oh, that was the cutest baby voice ever. I'm sorry, I just heard a little kid. For dubs, the three major cities are New York, LA, and Dallas, right? Mostly LA and Dallas, and then some in New York, like Pokemon and such. I mean, just a little show called Pokemon. So there's that. Get comfortable with the word no, because you're going to hear the word no all the time. It's just part of the job. Most successful actors, if they're booking 60% of their work that they audition for, are really successful, but can be considered successful if you're booking 30% of the work that you audition for. So get comfortable with the word no. Get an agent. Agents are really important. Agents are awesome. Agents find you work. Well, it depends on what city you live in and stuff. But agents and managers find you work and book you gigs and manage all of the things that most actors aren't good at, like billing. They also kind of act as your liaison, right? So back in the day, Funimation still has open calls. An open call is basically you call and you're like, oh, I'd like to be put on the open call list. And then we'll have, like, once a year, an open call where we pull people from the list and they come in and audition for various roles or whatever. That list is now 5 years long. So I wouldn't recommend going that route unless you're like 12. But even then, yeah? You're 12. Well, you're adorable too. Yeah, I actually wouldn't recommend going that route at all. I would recommend getting an agent, because if you submit a demo, or if your agent submits a demo reel to a company or a casting director or someone like that, then you're going to be taken far more seriously. And they're more likely to listen to what you have than if you just cold call. So I wouldn't recommend cold calling. Agents are great. Demos are great. Demo reels are really important. It's kind of like your business card for voice actors. The best demo reels are tailored to the voice gig that you're trying to get, which is to say, if you watch anime, which I'm assuming some of you do, so if you watch anime, you know that it's not like, oh, I'm from the Wild West, and this is my Wild West accent, or I'm British, and this is my British accent. That was the worst British. Unless you're watching Black Butler. That is true. But usually there aren't over-the-top stereotypes and archetypes. So if you were to submit a demo to an animation or like a dubbing house, and it didn't fit within the genre, then they're automatically going to throw that out, right? They're not going to really pay attention to it, because you have to do the homework and the knowledge and have the knowledge and do the research to know what it is that they're looking for, right? So there are different archetypes within anime, right, that are pretty classic. So it's like well, we all know them, right? Like there's the girl, like the little girl that's super cute, and then there's, all the others. But if you submit, there are many. But if you submit those sorts of voices and your fresh take on it, then that's really the best way to do it. I also know some people that are like, oh, do you want to hear me do your voice? Like, here, I can do your voice. And I'm like, that's amazing, but that won't get you work. And it's cool. Parrots are awesome, but you want to be able to put your own take on it, right? Take your own experiences, your own nuances to a character, or approach a character in such a way that shows the directors or the casting people that you are capable of interpreting a character, internalizing it, and putting a product out that is interesting and diverse and quality, right? Instead of being like, oh, do you want to hear my Colleen Clinkenbeard? Like, no, I don't. I want to hear what you have. So that's my best advice, is to getting your foot in the door. Yes, so at this juncture, I will now take questions, and since I know for sure there's a 12-year-old in the room, it will all be PG. Okay, yes.
So how many characters did you audition as for Attack on Titan?
How many characters did I audition for in Attack on Titan? So I auditioned for 3 different characters for the series. Usually that's kind of the standard. You don't want to go in and be like, I'm going to read for every single one of these characters. Are you ready? Like, because they don't have time for that, right? There's like 15-minute blocks, so you have, or 10-minute blocks, or sometimes 5-minute blocks, and you only have that amount of time to impress the director or engineer or whomever. So you want to pick the 3. I chose the 3 characters that I thought were the coolest. So I read for Mikasa, obviously, and then I read for Sasha, because she's awesome and hilarious, right? Potato Girl, I love her. And then at the time, the director wasn't sure if he wanted to cast Armin with a lady or a man, because obviously, like, Armin has a higher voice. Also, the Japanese voice actor is a female.
She's female.
Yeah,
She's
so
gorgeous.
Yeah, she is pretty. So he was kind of on the fence as to what he wanted to do. So he had women and men read for Armin. Obviously, Josh Greeley was cast, and he's amazing. So I read for Armin as well, and those are the 3 that I read for. They were all awesome, and I'm very lucky and happy that I got Mikasa. It's been an amazing, like, life-changing role for me. I actually, like, quit my job last year. I'm gonna be, because, you know, I'm an actor, and so sometimes you have other jobs, and I was like, you know what? I don't need this job. I don't need you. I don't need this company. I don't need any of it. I am out of here. That's right. Out of here. And, like, I storm out, and, like, you know, when you're all, like, brazen, you're like, yeah, that's right. I quit my job. I don't need those guys. And then you get in your car. You're like, oh my God. How am I going to pay my bills? Everything's be fine. I just need to take a deep breath. I really didn't like that job. This is awesome. And then I got a call. And it was Mike McFarland, and I was like driving and trying to keep it together. I was like, hey Mike, how's it going? And he was like, oh, I just wanted to let you know that Jeremy got the role of Mikasa. And I was like, that's great, good for Jeremy, that's amazing. I just got my job, and I don't know what I'm doing with it. He's like, what are you talking about, Jeremy? I was like, did you just say Jeremy? He's like, no, I said you got the job, you got the role. And I was like, oh. Well, that's so much better. Like, that's much better news. So yeah, that's how I found out that I was cast. I had to, like, pull over, and instead of being like the cool girl that's like, oh yeah, that's cool, Mike, like, I'll totally see you at the studio, like, tomorrow or whatever, I was like, that is such great news. You don't know what kind of day I had today, and I just need a minute. It's horrible. I have all the feels. So yes, Chris, you have a question?
How did you audition for the character of Matsu in Negima?
Is anyone familiar with Matsu from Negima? Negima was a magical girl show. We are magical, and we all want the same boy. Shocking. And that boy is like, no, I don't like any of you. It's like, really? Really? What teenage boy is like, oh, all these girls like me, and I don't like any of them? Like, nah, that doesn't happen.
I got a nice nightmare.
So Matsu is a frog. It's like a little edamame bean frog, and he talks like this, which is really not at all my voice, right? So I actually didn't audition for Matsu. Jamie Markey was the director of that season of Negima, and she brought me and Brina Palencia in. So Matsu had a little magical friend. So Matsu is like this little edamame bean frog, and then Shichimi is this little cotton ball cat. Neither of them resemble their animals or whatever. They just look like a bean and a cotton ball. But we're tiny. We're also tiny, miniature little things that hop around the world and do magical things. So Jamie just cast me and Brina because we're best friends, and she was like, "Oh, best friends in real life and best friends on TV." So, Brina went in first, and she was like, "Oh, I cast Brina." So Brina's like this, meow, and she just talks like this the whole time. And so they needed a stark contrast. Also, people confuse us frequently, Brina and Trina. Oh, the Rinas, haha, it rhymes. Yeah, so we needed a stark contrast from Brina's character. And so she was like, do something like super gravelly and like weird. And so I came up with this voice, and that's what stuck. So here we are now. Yeah, so that was an excellent question. Thank you for the question. Yes, sir.
At the previous con I went to, I met Michael Tatum, and he was talking about how he really loved voicing Okabe in Steins Gate.
Yeah.
And he said after recording that he was in tears sometimes when he recorded for Okabe. So I would like to know, what was your experience voicing Makise Kurisu?
So the question, it was an anecdote about meeting J. Michael Tatum, who some of you may or may not know. He was, so he was also in a show called Steins Gate. By show of hands, who's seen Steins Gate? Awesome. If you haven't seen it, you totally should. It's an amazing show. It's about time travel and amazing things that I am not at all well versed in. It was awful. Like I would go in to record for Makise. She was the female lead that I played opposite Tatum. I would go in to record, and there'd be like charts. It'd be like, oh, this is the world line we're on right now, but because this didn't happen in this world line, now we're down here on world line C, but he's up here on world line A, but now he's been transported down to this, and because this happened, something about butterflies and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, that's fascinating. Can you say that again? So I went to lunch with my 3 siblings while I was recording the show, and I was like, oh, guys, you'll never believe it. Like, I'm in a time travel show. It's the coolest. I don't know what the strings and the butterflies are about, but it's a thing, and my brother was like, Stephen Hawking's hello, like, what do you mean you don't know? And Tara was like, you really haven't read that book? And my little sister's like, oh, I actually just finished it. Like, pulls it out of her bag. It's this giant, like, phone book, which, if you don't know, those were actually, that was a text that we used to use on paper back in the day. So my sister pulls out this giant book, which is also on paper, if you haven't. She's like, oh, yeah, no. I was like, oh, this is amazing. My 3 siblings are all far smarter than me, which is not shocking. They're brilliant and sweet people. So the show in general is really amazing and very dear to my heart, and Tatum's. It was something that we both worked really hard on. Tatum was also a writer for the show. In general, it's a very emotionally charged show, and there are some pretty difficult scenes that I did. There's one in particular, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, so I'll just kind of blanket it. There was a particular scene that I had with a father figure, we'll say, a father figure, and it was super emotionally charged and really, really dense and difficult to record. At the end of that, because of the level of emotion and what that character was going through at the time, usually you take like a break from talking, like every hour, but we went, because I didn't think I'd be able to go back after taking a break, like I didn't think I'd be able to mentally go back to where that was as easily as I would have liked, in a timely fashion. We just powered through it, and so it was a lot of crying and a lot of energy and a lot of emotionally draining things in that session. And then after like 2.5 hours, I got out of the booth, and like Colleen, the director, Colleen was like, are you okay? And I was like, I just don't think I can do anything anymore. I just need to go home. She's like, do you want a cookie maybe? I was like, yeah, probably. Maybe some cat videos, I don't know. But yeah, she was amazing. It was a great show, and if you haven't seen Steins Gate, I highly, highly recommend it. Yes, sir.
Are there any anime TV shows that you wish you could have done?
Are there any anime TV shows that I wish I could have done? All of them. All of them. Of course, I mean, who wouldn't have wanted to be on Sailor Moon, like the first Sailor Moon, right? Let's see. Speed Racer? Oh my gosh, if I could have been on Speed Racer, that would have been fly. I want to say Cowboy Bebop just because I love it so much, but I can't imagine doing better than anyone on that show. Cowboy Bebop was like my gateway drug. Not that I encourage that. But Cowboy Bebop was the very, very first anime I ever saw, because of a boy, of course. I was in college, and my brother has always watched anime and always been like, "Oh, Trina, you should, watch anime. It's so cool. It's so da-da-da. And we're Japanese." And I'd be like, "Shut up, Seth. God, I'm too cool. I want to go and dig some stuff up and climb trees. Like, I don't know why you want to watch TV all the time." Anyway, so I was in college, and a friend, this guy that I liked, was like, "Oh, have you seen Cowboy Bebop?" I was like, "Of course I've seen Cowboy Bebop. I own it. I've seen all of them." And I went to this place called Blockbuster, which back in the day was this like standalone building where you would go and you would rent media, and you'd take it home and you'd watch it, and then you'd rewind it, and then you take it back. I know that the rewind is like the little arrow that you hit, now. But be kind, rewind. So I went and rented all of the Cowboy Bebops and completely got addicted. Immediately called my brother. I was like, "I am so sorry. I get it. I totally get it now." He's like, "You're welcome." And I was like, I feel like my brain just exploded. He's like, "What do you think of the opening song?" I was like, 1, 2, 3, let's do jam. I want to jam. Now on road trips, that's one of our anthem songs. We totally listen to Cowboy Bebop in the car. That's awesome. So then he was like, "Oh, you have to see Samurai Champloo." And so I started watching Samurai Champloo. And I mean, who can watch that show and then not be in love with anime? It's beautiful. I mean, it's kind of gory, but it's beautiful. Oh, I love that show so much. I mean, if I could have been on that show, ridiculous. I mean, not that I could have done better or anything, but and I just feel like, especially the lead character in both shows is Steve Bloom, right? Who is an amazing actor and just really inspiring. Kind of a dirty old man, but really inspiring. That's not true. I love Steve. He's really sweet. He's kind of a dirty old man. Yes.
Recently there was a hashtag on Enrollment Matters, which was about voice actors naming ones of video games, thinking about striking for better contracts. What are your thoughts and opinions on that?
So frequently when people see things like that, they're like, "Oh, what do they want? They want more money? God, blah, 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 blah." It's like, that's actually not the whole story. A lot of what voice actors do, in my opinion, and not just because I am one, but because I think it's really valuable, is act. We perform and we tell a story, and we do so in such a way to bring to life another artist's idea and writer's ideas, right? And so if we're working really hard to do that, then shouldn't we be legally protected to continue to do that? In point of fact, I'm not just talking about money or whatever, but if it's a very strenuous job, and it can be physically taxing, and it can be physically dangerous if you don't know how to, 1, scream, 2, control your voice, and 3, know your limits. So I've been very blessed and very lucky to work with directors that when I feel like I'm getting to an edge, or when they feel I'm getting to an edge, they'll pull me back and be like, "Hey, let's break for the day so that you can talk tomorrow, because maybe that's important." And you can actually hurt yourself for the rest of your life if you're not careful. And I don't think that any corporation, company, or anyone else should be able to tell an actor that they should risk their health and their livelihood for the sake of one show. I don't think that that's responsible, and I don't think that that's ethical. Hello, welcome to the Trina Nishimura panel. So that's how I feel about that. I think that there's a lot of information that may have been misconstrued, but the things that people are striking for are basically just rights, workers' rights, within the genre that hasn't been protected, that have not been protected. And so now people are taking a stand, and I completely support it. So there. I'm going to have some other people who haven't asked questions, but I do see you. I do. Yes?
I have this pretty great DVD set of an anime I love called Berserk. And one of my favorite parts of it is they had some outtakes at the end of it. Do you guys have recordings of outtakes? They were really hilarious, some of them.
Yeah, we have these things called bombs. Have y'all heard of bombs? Chris is like, oh, I know. So a bomb is like, so when you go in to record a dub, hello, welcome to the Trina Nishimura panel. So when you go in to record a dub, I'm just entertaining myself. So there are two screens, right? There's one screen that has the animation on it, and then there's one screen that has the script on it. Your job as an actor is to watch the Japanese and what the Japanese flaps do, right, on the screen, and how their mouth moves and their facial expressions and things like that. And then you have the script, and so you watch in Japanese and figure out, go over there, right? And so that's the line, go over there, that's the mouth movement, and then you interpret it and make it fit in with that character and everything else. Hello, welcome to the Trina Nishimura panel. So that's part of it, right? So a bomb is, so you watch it in Japanese, and then it's like beep, 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 and then you say your line on the imaginary fourth beat. Goodbye. So on the imaginary fourth beat, you start talking. In the meantime, somebody may have recorded a line before you, right? So J. Michael Tatum may have had his character Okabe say something during that beep, beep, beep. So it's like, where should I go? Go over there, right? But sometimes you leave bombs for your fellow actors, especially if you record before them. So instead of like, where should I go? It's like something like a double entendre, or maybe an innuendo, maybe just fart noises. And so you're like, okay, I'm in the moment, I'm gonna do this line, I'm gonna say go over there, I'm gonna do it, and it's like beep, beep. Right? But and so the director and the sound engineer know it's coming, and they're just like, okay, go ahead, you ready? So it's like beep, beep, and if you say your line anyways and perform accordingly, like nothing happened, then you beat the bomb. If you immediately start cracking up, which I always do, then you don't beat the bomb. I've actually never been able to leave a bomb before until last week in the studio when I was working. I was like, oh my gosh, I have something that totally fits. It was about a character that I guess I can't even talk about it. There was a character that should not have had a girlfriend because of his demeanor and his creepiness, and so I made a joke that I was like, I know she's tied up in the basement or something. I don't know. Not that I encourage that. I don't endorse that. But I don't know if he beat the bomb or not. But yeah, as far as outtakes go, there are a lot of outtakes. Most of them don't make it into post or after post because most of them aren't PG, we'll say. But they're funny. There are some there aren't any that are PG that I can remember. Yes.
What's your favorite, like, your show?
My favorite show?
That you've acted in. There we go. I can't English.
My favorite show that I've been in?
Yes.
I'd have to say right now it's Attack on Titan.
Yay!
Oh, that sounds good. I like that. Yeah, I love Attack on Titan. It's such a cool show. I feel like it's doing something different, right? Because it's bringing people to the genre that haven't ever seen anime. And they're like, oh, this is what anime is? This is awesome. It's bringing people back to the genre that may have been a little jaded or lost interest. I think it's a really universal sort of story, and it's a really interesting story, and it's changing the way that people view anime. I really like the the gender roles, right, are being changed. So when I started a million years ago, you could be a girl you could be a lead female character that was strong or a good fighter, but you also had to be really well endowed. Or like somehow your clothes just fall off. I don't know why. Like I loved it when like people are like, oh yeah, you get punched and then your shirt busts off. It's like that's not how it works. But so back in the day, like you had to be a female had to be hypersexualized. And I love that Mikasa Ackerman is one of the best fighters in the whole series, and she doesn't have to be hypersexualized, and she's not chasing Eren, and she's not doing all of these things because she's in love and needs a boyfriend. I mean, we all saw Twilight, right? So she's working and doing all of these things in order to preserve the love of her family, or adopted family, right? Like Eren and Armin. And she's not terribly in touch with her feelings, and she's not good at figuring out her emotional stuff, which girls are always supposed to be emotional and have all the feels, you know. She can just be tough, and she can just be strong, and she can be doing it because she loves her family, not because she needs a boyfriend. And on the other token, Armin is a boy, and he has feelings, and he cries, and he's the smart one, and he's not physically adept. And I mean, we all have, I'm sure people have all felt these social pressures about what a gender role is, and how you have to, if you're a guy, you have to be strong, and you have to be tough, and you have to, you know, be physically capable or whatever. Or if you're a girl, you have to be pretty, or you have to be sensitive, or you have to be the smart one, but you probably shouldn't want to fight boys, you know? I think that the gender issues of today are being reflected in art now, and I think that that's a huge reason that I love Attack on Titan so much, is because little girls now get to choose, right? Like, yeah, you can be a pretty princess, or you can be Darth Vader, or you can be both. And that's cool too. And I think it's awesome. So, yeah, I'll clap for that. I mean, it's such a cool show because there are a million other reasons that I like it, and I'll tell you some of them. I feel like everybody has a Titan, right? Not necessarily a giant, naked, genitalless human creature chasing after us, trying to eat us, but a Titan in their own right. Everyone can have a Titan. Everyone has a Titan. Maybe that's a school bully, or body dysmorphia, illness, hunger, war, all the bad things in life are Titans. And while I'm not the strongest, most adept person at things, it is inspiring to see these characters, these small, seemingly insignificant people make a choice that they're going to fight, that they're going to take on their Titan. And I think that that's inspiring for people that are looking for hope, for people that are looking for a hero, to know that there are heroes and that you can be your own hero and that you can face your own Titan in whatever capacity that means for you. So I think it's a good show. That's all. I'll stop being so serious. Yes, in the back there on the side. Yeah.
What is your favorite role you've ever played? Your favorite line you've ever said? Maybe you have one. What your favorite voice?
Favorite role, favorite line, favorite voice. I don't have a favorite role because they're all like my kids. I don't have any kids, thank God. I mean, not that it's wrong to procreate. That's great. Everybody makes choices. I choose to have furs. But favorite character, I don't really have a favorite character. It really changes every second. Right now I'm going to say Mikasa just because I'm standing here and I love Mikasa and we were just talking about her. But in 5 minutes it might change to somebody else. My favorite line out of all of them. Okay. Gosh. Okay. I can do it. I'm strong. Real strong. None of you come close. I am a warrior. Huh? That's my favorite line. Favorite voice I've ever done. Oh, I played a horse once. Her name was Shelly. She was in One Piece. Oh, she was adorable. She was just this long neck horse. I was like, it's like a giraffe. And Mike was like, it's not a giraffe, it's a horse. I was like, it's a giraffe. No, I changed my mind. I'm sorry. My favorite, so this is actually on an outtake, which I don't know if I'm allowed to announce this yet.
Keep it vague.
Do it anyway.
There is an